ready for takeoff.
We are cleared for takeoff.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time to take flight in your community and in your life. This is Audio Airstrike.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Everett Hall-McNeill, and this is Audio Airstrike, episode 217. Thank you for joining us. My guest at this time is a project manager, has a lot of experience working in the construction field, but also is my oldest brother and has a wealth of knowledge of life. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Paul McNeill Jr. What's going on, little bro?
Little bro. Oh, you got jokes today.
I was just trying to see if you was going to catch it.
That's funny. Yeah,
I was just trying to see if you was going to catch it.
You're not going to get nothing past me. You know better than
okay.
that.
All right. I'm just checking. I'm just checking.
What's up, little bro? Okay. I got you.
He was like, "Oh, I got you, little bro."
We got witnesses right now, so we'll talk about this off camera.
It's gonna be a whole mess. He's gonna be like, "Don't you ever call me that again."
But it's all good.
So I wanted to kind of bring you in to discuss a couple of things. One of those things being public health. We had the Damar Hamlin situation, and I don't really want to. I like, because at this point, I assume that everybody is kind of aware of the situation.
Yeah,
but
I think everybody is aware. I mean, it took over TV, social media, news feeds. I think I probably got more notifications on my text messages and things like that than I did when Obama was running for president.
Pretty much. Now, I will say this about it. The one thing that was brought to my attention was the gray area of what's private and what's public.
Okay.
Because when I'm looking at health issues or anything like that, and don't get me wrong, this was a scary situation. I understand that. I totally understand what was going on. Heart stopped. I totally get that.
Definitely a scary situation. Definitely.
There were several issues that were going on. One, how public every detail was to the point he got out that next Monday.
Right. I
look at it like this. When it comes to like public health and stuff like that, I'm all for making aware that some people, like your close circle of friends and family, should know what's going on with you. But when it comes to like to the point where it's everybody that ever knew you is aware about the health situation,
correct,
that could potentially cause a couple problems, because then you have people that are going to act like people, and then they're going to want to care in the moment. When in truth be told, there were some people that really didn't give this dude the time of day. Really didn't go out of their way to like befriend this person.
True.
And I'm just talking about in general. I'm not talking about necessarily Damar Hamlin, but that situation really had me thinking about, God forbid, let's say something happens and one of us is now dealing with a health issue. Then all of a sudden you see like people that you really don't talk with on a regular basis, really are not in your close circle, now knowing every single detail of your health progress.
Well, let me chime in a little bit on that.
Gotcha.
I think part of the reason of why it became so popular and so broadband and in for everyone to see, chime in, and they broadcasted it, like it was up and coming every minute. You could find out what was going on with this man within every hour. You was getting an update. Now, the gift and the curse to that is, yes, we all felt for him at the moment. Everyone did. And we were just talking about this off camera, how it brought everyone together.
Yep.
Like everyone was brought together in this. There was a lot of people that you probably wouldn't normally have brought together by this one thing, which is a very great thing, actually. That's a godsend, actually. But the thing about it is, because it happened in the public eye, Super Bowl, well, not even Super Bowl. You got the playoff hypes. The Bills have been dominating all season. And, it's an adversity for this team. And then this happens. You know, some people wanted to see if it was going to derail the Bills. Some people wanted to see if it was going to galvanize them to push to the Super Bowl. We don't know about all that part yet. Well, more than likely, they're going to do fine. But I think part of it was it happened on, was it Monday Night Football, right? Mm-hmm. So it happened on Monday Night Football. Everybody was watching. So now everybody had some form of investment to the situation because they saw it. And it was, you know, it could have been a tragedy, but it ended up being a blessing. But because everyone was involved in it and kind of had some form of emotional tie to it, I think it really made people go, you know, football players are people. Sometimes, you know, we forget that. They people.
We forget that every day. We forget that when we talk about their performance. We forget that when we talk about the different contract situations that they're in. I mean, there's nothing more nauseating than hearing a fan base run down a athlete that's actually doing good for himself. He's being a team player. He's checking all the boxes. He's doing what he has to do. Injuries happen and they come and go. You can't, you know, you can try your best to prevent it, but it's inevitable at certain points.
It's part of the game.
It's part of the game. So, and I've seen people, especially this year, and for those of you who know me personally, y'all know I'm a rabid Baltimore Ravens fan. I know from personal experience how people online trash the very athletes that are sitting there putting their lives on the line. It's out of pocket and disrespectful.
Well,
so when I sit back over here and look at all these situations, it's like, I'm happy that people are finally realizing that, oh, football players are human too. But I just wish it didn't take a dire situation like this for them to realize it. You know what I mean?
I think part of the thing too, while regular people look at professional athletes, is they look at the money. They look at the salaries and they go, they're going to pay that guy $280 million to play football. Well, yeah, he is. They are going to pay him that much money because ever since that guy was 6'5" or whatever, the sacrifices that he has to make, you know, physically, his family, all those things, he has to make sacrifices to get to that level. And again, their situation, when he goes out on that field, he is actually facing a life-threatening injury every time he touches the field. Now, get it. It's a choice, but he is a player. And if you want to, some people like to call them entertainers. I wouldn't disrespect an athlete that way, personally. But nobody says that when you see your favorite singer or artist come on stage and they dance and sing. That's talent. That's an ability that they've honed for years. A skill set that they've honed for years to get to that point. We pay $150 to see Beyonce, $300 for a Beyonce concert. Don't even sneeze at it. Matter of fact, Beyonce came to Baltimore. She sold out Raven Stadium. How much did she get paid? You know, so it's a performance. They're the top athletes. That's what they do. They play football. And they get paid because they risk everything every time they touch the field, as we saw in front of everybody on Monday night. That could have been it for that dude.
Yep, it could have been it. And I will say this. I do commend people for being respectful for the most part. Most everybody was respectful. Sending prayers and wishes and also donating and, you know, just sending the family a lot of love. But I will say this. There are a couple of folks, while, yeah, I get it, that question of what are they going to do about the game does come up. Here's the thing. You can't be that insensitive to say that at a certain time.
Yeah, because I did hear conversations like that right after or a little while after, and they were like, well, what about the game? What about it? A person's life is at stake. Mm-hmm. That's football. It is a game. Now, I'm not going to play naive and sit here and make it not sound like there's some form of monetary gain by other parties because of this game. But at that point, that man's life was at stake. No game is important. Nothing is more important than him. You know, if they can make the game up, they make the game up. If they call it a no contest, they call it a no contest. Both teams are still going to the playoffs. Both teams are still going to seed at where they seed. That game really didn't make a difference. And if you want to get technical, you can say the game ended. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the Bills were up.
The Bengals it was like 7-0 Bengals.
Okay, so then the Bengals would take the win. If you want to get technical, they could go that route. Would that change anything for the Bengals? No, not really. Mm-hmm. Just seeding.
Yeah. You know, that's the thing. And I'm not going to sit over here and go on some rant, but like there's a time and a place for saying certain things. And sometimes, while yes, I get it, you may have that thought, sometimes saying that at the wrong time can make you come off insensitive. So that is something that we have to be careful of, because sometimes you may think something and that's not the right time to say that. Some of the best accomplishments were made because people watched when they said something, not what they said. They watched when they said it. And if you're going to, especially if you are a media personality, even if you're just somebody that gives his opinion on social media, which is a lot of people nowadays.
I think that's everybody nowadays.
We doing this right now. You know what I mean?
Pretty much. That's everybody nowadays.
Yeah. So my thing is this. We have to, at some point, be mature and be responsible and understand that this ain't just about you. This is not just about your thought process. You have to understand where you're at from a mature standpoint. You also have to understand and read the room and check yourself about the timing as to, okay, is this a good time to say this? Perfect example. Some of y'all have been in a relationship. How many times have you said something at the wrong time to your significant other and then it goes left? Of course. Why? Because you said it at the wrong time. It started a trigger. It set them off. And I'm not victim blaming or shaming anybody. It happens on both sides of the relationship. I'm just using that as an example that we have to continue to do a better job at watching when we say something. Perfect example. When somebody is, let's say somebody gained weight or something like that. Mm-hmm. I'll use this as a perfect example. Somebody gained weight.
You know, that's a real delicate subject.
Yeah.
Especially if, you know, your significant other asked you that one question that most men run from.
Right.
Yeah. That's dangerous.
That is dangerous because depending on how you say it. So let's say somebody gains weight. You decide in your brain to go, yo, that girl lost, or I should say that dude and that girl gained weight. Mm-hmm. But instead of you just keeping that to yourself, you say that out loud directly to their face. And then you get a reaction that you're not prepared for. So when they tell you, look, you can't be built like a troll doll and talk about my weight. And then you get offended because you don't like that. That's what happens when you say something at the wrong time. Yeah. That's happened to me.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Y'all gotta, like I said this a few weeks ago, man. I was like, y'all gotta really, I'm not saying that, I'm not going to sit over here and go on this, we're in a sensitive time and we have to be, I'm not going to do all that.
We kind of are.
To a degree. We are to a degree.
I'm with you.
But there are people that use that excuse to overstep to a point.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole nother.
That could be a whole nother episode.
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode.
That could be a whole other episode itself.
Yeah, we need to focus.
The thing about it is when it comes to, and I've seen media pundits call each other out about it. Skip Bayless got fried for it. I understand all that. The reason why that happened is because that was a moment we didn't care about a game. We didn't care about what they're going to do about the game. We didn't care about nothing else. The focus was on this young man's health and making sure he's okay. Those players were not in any shape to worry about a game. They handled it the best way they could, but they were not in any shape to play the game. If I'm sitting over here playing a game and somebody's like their life is on the line right in front of me, the last thing I'm thinking about is the game. I don't care how important the game is.
Yeah. There's nothing more important than a person's life. I want to say I hope everybody knows and understands that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But, the other side to it is the immense focus that those guys have when they play. The, sheer competitiveness that those players have to win. Everything they've ever done and learned is about winning. You can't be thinking about winning when you just watch someone be revived on the football field and you don't know how it's going to go. You don't know how it's going to turn up. You don't. So how could you even sit there and be like, oh, let's go back in the locker room. We're going to take a 5 to 10 minute break and then we're going to come back and play.
Nobody's
who won play?
And then you got to think about the mental health aspect of that. Like, how are you going to go through the reps and your mind's not even in the game at that point?
You're actually putting more people at risk for injury and other things because you're not focused.
Right. All right. Like, who's going to play nobody in their right mind. And I know there's always, with these situations, there's always somebody out there that is like, oh, well, could they? No. The bottom line is that the focus was on DeMar, on that family. And when it comes to the insurance policy within the NFL, when it comes to these programs, when it comes to insurance among athletes, it is not necessarily the best. Actually, it depends on.
They're probably for an industry that makes as much money that the NFL makes. Now, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure the policies, unless these guys have policies outside of the NFL separately, but again, they're still banging and bashing their bodies. So I'm sure they probably are really high risk,
right,
because of what they do. I'm pretty sure their insurance policies are not that great.
Yeah. They're gonna, at this point, they might have to take out their own insurance policies.
Yeah, and what does that cost them? We ain't talking
in the long run.
Look, we're not talking about this guy gets up and goes to work in the office and he drives back and forth to home, work to wife and kids back and forth. We talking about a guy that his business is slamming his body into another man. His whole profession, and let's face it, as long as he can play it, he gonna play it. So how do you ensure that? How do you get life insurance for something like that?
I just think it's one of those. I think it's anytime you get in any form of sports, there is always risk of your injury, mental health, physical health, all that type of stuff. There's always that risk. It's part of the game. The issue comes in where you have, okay, now we're getting into, do people really care about, like, how far do people really care about the health? Yes, we saw the outpouring.
Are you talking about the fan side of it, or are you talking about the athlete side of it?
I'm talking about from the business side of it. Is this going to make the NFL redo their entire insurance policy?
I don't think so.
To the point where it's going to be a little bit more towards the player's side.
I don't think so.
Because that's another thing I'm thinking about.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so, because put in perspective, look at it in this way. Why? That was a freak accident. The odds of him doing that, he could have went out and got struck by lightning twice in the same spot. That's what the odds is. I don't know the exact statistics on it, but that's the odds. The NFL, from a business standpoint, now I'm speaking from a business person, not a regular fan or a regular mindset of a regular person at this moment. I'm talking about business. If the NFL has to go back and change their policies, now I think they should morally, to protect the players, you know, in so many words, the cast members that orchestrate, you know, these productions and these movies that they put on every Sunday that we all love. They'll probably say no because it's money out of their pockets. And let's face it, it comes down to money. You know, the NFL owns a day of the week. They own Sunday. They spilling into Thursday. You know, when college football stops playing, what do they do? Say, hey, we can play on Saturday too. More money. That's why you see football Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday night. That's why. Because there's money to be made. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, the athletes are the ones that are paying for this. You know, that's why athletes can demand the salaries they demand, because the average shelf life for a running back in the NFL is 3 to 5 years, if he's lucky. Linebacker, maybe 5 to 6. Maybe. DB, 6 to 5, give or take. Wide receiver, maybe a little longer. The only person that actually has the longest, could have the longest career in the NFL is a quarterback. Why is that? One, he's the most paid, and that gives you more time. You know, basically he can make you more money. Mm-hmm. And the other side is he doesn't take the hits like they used to. Mm-hmm. But interior linemen, those dudes banging in the trenches all day long. Mm-hmm. That's their whole.
They may got a good 3-4 years.
They made 3-4 years tops. And that's not even counting all the years that they put in trying to get to there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, shelf life in the NFL, you know, yeah, you get the phenomenal athletes that have 10, 15s, Tom Brady careers, Ray Lewis careers. You know, those guys have them phenomenal long years, but those are exceptions. The average athlete, NFL, they don't make it that long. I know 3 players personally. They're out. They're not playing football anymore. They're in the other stuff. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's a very short amount of time for a lifetime of work. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't also think of this. 9 times out of 10, usually when players get drafted, they're between 23 and 24. That's about the average of the age when you get drafted to the NFL, unless you're an older player, but usually 23, 24. So think about it like this. If you could do your entire career, make all the money you're going to make in 5 years for the rest of your life, wouldn't you be trying to get as much money as possible?
Oh, absolutely.
That's why they ask the salaries they ask, especially if they're that player. Mm-hmm. You know, I ain't saying a mediocre guy.
Right.
But to go back to the original conversation is I don't think the league is going to do it. It'd be wonderful if they did, but I just don't think from a business standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just
don't see it.
I definitely understand that point because, you know, and that's just something that I always think about when these things happen is the company or the companies that are putting on this event, are they going to think about, you know, hey, should we restructure our insurance policy? Should we do this? Should we do that? Now, what they might do is they may go into and investigate, okay, what caused this? How's a way that we can prevent this from happening again? They'll try that. But do I think personally that the NFL is going to turn around and redo their entire insurance policy? No. Now, what I will commend them is this. I've read something where they just put him on IR and they paid pretty much the rest of his salary and whatever.
But they put him on IR. I mean, he's actually able to play technically. He could be released. He was released from the hospital. He's probably cleared to play. He probably wouldn't play.
I wouldn't play him.
I mean, well, they played Tua as soon as he came back from the concussion.
That Miami, that's a totally. I look at that as a separate. I look at that as a mishandled incident.
He actually has a concussion right now.
Yeah,
he might not play in the playoffs.
Yeah, that I look at that. Well, they ain't getting past the Bills, but that's a whole nother story for another time.
So they ain't getting past the Bills.
They're not getting past the Bills.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, so I'd be shocked. How I look at it, man, is it's. I get concerned because it's like there's that wiggle room of, are you protecting players? Are you protecting your pockets? Are you protecting employees? Are you protecting your pocket? There's always that wiggle room, no matter who you work for, where it's, we have to protect our pockets, but we're going to look out for players this way.
Well, my industry, construction, it's safety first. Safety over profit first. If it ain't safe, we don't do it. That's my industry. Now, the industry I work in, yeah, we in it for profit, but everybody got to go home. It doesn't matter how much profit we made if we lost a man. That's irrelevant. You know, you can have a wonderful project, and I've worked on some multi-million-dollar projects and some of the bigger entities in our area, but we never put a safety over profit. But that's
you mean a profit over safety?
Correct. Yeah. Thank you for fixing that one.
No problem.
Yeah. So when you start doing that, it changes the dialogue. It changes what it looks like. But what could make them change, and I just thought about this when you said it, is the sponsorships. You know, if the sponsorships are like, hey, you know, overseeing your policies, looked at your insurance, you're not in line with our company morals or our company standards. So I'm sorry, can't do business with you. We got to part ways. I've had contracts like that where companies wasn't in line with our company's absolutes, and we had to part ways. Millions and millions of dollars on the table.
Right.
But because everything wasn't in line with our core values.
Right.
So at that point, what happened? We put safety and moral values above profit.
Right.
But again, that's my industry.
Right.
This industry over here a little different.
Oh, it's very different.
A lot more zeros over there.
Yeah, it's way more zeros over there. And there's a lot of, and that's the thing, man. Like, I feel like, and it's a shame that sometimes, like, when a company gets so big and stops listening to the core fan base at times in certain situations.
But we're just fans. That's how they looking at us.
Yeah.
They're like, y'all just want to see your team win.
But yeah, that's there's degrees of fans though. There's the fans that are smart. There's the fans that are kind of in the middle. They don't know everything, but you know, they're in the middle. Then you got the toxic fans at the bottom. The toxic fan base is like a certain portion. It's not half. It's not the majority. It is a certain portion.
Right.
Majority of the fan base, depending on what team you're with, is usually respectful. And also, if they see something, it's like, wait a minute now. I'm not claiming to be the sharpest tool in the shed, but something's not right about that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you see things that ain't right, you know they're not right. Everyone was taught wrong.
Right.
At some point, you've gotten the training to notice right from wrong. The thing about it is, as life went on, you started deciding on if it was something you wanted to get on board with or not get on board with.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, you right about that.
Yeah, so that's the thing. When you got fans Yes, we do have the toxic ones that, they act like couch GMs, they act like couch coaches.
I love those fans.
Yeah, y'all need to get help, seriously. We do have people that act that way, but there is fans that are respectful, but also understand like, hey, something's really not right about this particular thing, or something's going on here with this particular thing. I don't understand this. When you see that, that is not the fans trying to be entitled. That's just a solid person going and looking around going, something's not right.
Yeah, this don't look right. This don't add up.
So when the fan base is recognizing it, best believe somebody that you have a sponsorship with
It's true.
is looking at it that same way.
That same way, yeah.
Because the sponsor, the reason why the reason why the sponsorship is even happening is because those people are a fan of what you do. Yeah, we understand the income part of it. Yeah, from a number standpoint, this would go well with the partnership. But they also understand from a fan's perspective why the fan is so heavily invested into this particular brand.
Correct.
Because the thing about branding is I am buying in to an extension of something that I identify with. Mm-hmm. There is something culturally about any sports team, and it's what makes every sports team different or every brand different. There is something about that brand and the way that they operate within the culture of the state that I live in that makes me attached to that brand and makes me attached to that sports team, that makes me buy in and get merchandise.
Right.
And pay for a ticket. And sit and watch what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And yeah,
partnerships know that.
And it definitely does give you also carry a sense of pride for your team when your team plays well. You rep your team no matter where you go.
Right.
Because like you said, it's a culture, and the branding goes back to how well that team represents you as a person. Mm-hmm. Myself being a person from Baltimore, I'm a Raven fan too. I know when I go out of state, and I'm sure a lot of Raven fans do this as well. I know I'm not the only one. We wear our stuff. We wear it proud because we know what our team brings.
Right.
And people respect us and our city and our football team when they see it. Mm-hmm. But then you got the other side. If we were doing shady stuff with our players and doing our players wrong, will we have the respect? Probably not.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. Absolutely not. You can have a brilliant logo and a brilliant name, but the attention that comes with that is contingent on, are you going to treat people well? Is your brand facilitating a level of professionalism and class to the point where people are buying in? We can pull up a bunch of logos from a bunch of people that don't necessarily mean what that logo represents is that sense of professionalism and classness that we look for, especially when we're older.
I want to know what logos you got in mind. No, don't do that. Nope, don't do that. Nope, don't do that.
You know what? I could go down that slippery slope, but I'm not going to
do that. Not today.
Yeah, not today. We're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when we sit over here and we look at logos, when we sit over here and look at logos that represent different thought processes and stuff of that nature, whether you agree with them or not, you have to understand that brand speaks to something. Your brand speaks to something. I could look at a logo right now and be like, no, I don't want to deal with them. Just because they got the logo on their body somewhere or they're wearing it in their clothes. I'm going to make it nice and fun for y'all. If Baltimore Ravens fans, you see somebody wearing like a Bills jersey, there really isn't no smoke. Yeah, y'all in the same conference, but there really is no smoke with them. You don't have an issue with them. per se. You see somebody with a Steelers jersey on?
And why you had to bring them up?
I'm just saying. I'm pointing out an obvious situation.
Oh yeah, it's instant.
You see,
it's instant. It's like, oh, you wearing that?
Reverse.
Yeah.
The Steelers see you with the Ravens jersey on. It's like, these guys.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm talking about. Certain logos are different to certain people, and that's one of the things that you have to pay attention to. And one of the things the NFL has to pay attention to, especially when you're doing a business and a brand.
There's a lot of brands out here, and that's no different than when you have certain companies that say, oh, I can't back so-and-so anymore because of X, Y, and Z behaviors and things of that nature. You know, I'm not going to get into that. That's why I'm not going to say any names. I'm not even going to get into the conversation of the companies and the antics that go along with that. But if a company can say they don't want to back a person for whatever their antics are, us as people can say, I don't want to back a company for their antics. You know, we should be able to pick and choose who we support. And you should be able to proudly be able to wear a Ravens jersey. This hurts my stomach, but I'm going to say a Steelers jersey or any other NFL team that you rep because of how they represent their brand, how you feel about that company. You know, the NFL as a whole, I think they need to do some work. There's a lot of work they need to do. You know, there's a lot of things that the NFL is based on that I really don't think honestly align with where we are as people today and where society is today. I think they still are in a kind of old mindset. They kind of still do things kind of like, I own the team, it's my team, I'm going to do what I want to do. I got 7 friends with me, and we all agree. So we going to do it like this.
Yep, there definitely needs to be a philosophy change in a lot of different organizations.
But I also think, too, one of the main things that happens in organizations like that, and I'm not knocking any NFL owner, it's your team, you know, you do what you want to with it. But at the same time, these guys are older, set in their ways. They don't have very open mindsets because they are somewhat removed from regular society because of their status in business. So they're not even in tune 100% in with their fan base like that.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where people get kind of frustrated with owners.
Oh, of course.
Because they are looking at it from like well, why don't you just change this around? And the owner is like, well, I'm making this said much money here. I have to save this much money here to take care of this. And you telling me just change stuff around.
Nope.
Like you know the ins and outs of my job.
That's a bad business decision.
Yeah. So there has to be a level playing field from owner to player.
Level?
In terms of communication to a point.
Well, they have a union.
I get that.
But even the union is kind of, you know, they do what they can.
Right. And maybe I'm optimistic. Maybe it's like, all right, you wishing for a lot. My thing is this.
Yeah, to make it level, you might be wishing for a lot.
At least be somewhat transparent. At least. Just be frank, just be straightforward and honest.
Not trying to be funny.
Right.
But it is transparent. You want to play, I'm going to pay you, but I want you to do what I want you to do. That's the transparency with them.
Yeah.
It's, I own a team, this the league, this how we going to do this. Do you want to play football here or you want to go somewhere else and play football? What's your choices? Mm-hmm. We got the market. The NFL is so big in America, they're trying to go overseas and play. Mm-hmm. That's why we keep getting games in Europe. I was talking to a coworker about that the other day. He was like, why does the NFL keep going to Europe? I said, because there's a market over there. It's an untapped market. They're looking at soccer and going, why can't we do that? Mm-hmm. We can play there and here. They tried it many, many years ago. They had the World League. They had a whole bunch of teams over there. It just didn't catch on.
Yeah.
But they know that the money's there. That's why they trying to go there. They trying to spark that. But again, I got where you want to play at. We got all the talent coming out of the colleges. There's more college football players that get produced every year. There's teams. So why wouldn't they want to expand the market? See, that's the business side. From the player side, it's like, I just want to play. Mm-hmm. I want to get paid, but I want to play. Mm-hmm. And I'll tolerate X, Y, and Z so I can play. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the NFL standpoint. They'll go, well, I don't want to play. Go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. We've seen that happen with numerous players.
Yeah.
Where you gonna play? We own everything.
Might as well play for the XFL at this point.
I mean, now that's different. Now that's Mr. Johnson down there shaking stuff up because he understands. Mm-hmm. But part of the thing I'm not sure or I'm not certain on, but I think it still goes into the NFL. So it's still it's almost like a G League for the NFL, kind of. Because some of the guys that get their shot at the XFL and can do it and kill it and do wonderful can turn around and get signed with an NFL team. And you're still back into the same thing. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, the XFL guys do get paid. I don't know salaries, but they have a wonderful insurance plan. Because
better than the NFL?
From my understanding, it is. As long as they're playing. And that comes from The Rock being the person that he is, saying, hey, I was a player. I remember the days of this and how it is. He also was a professional wrestler. He remembers the days of injuries and this and he understands the concern from the athlete side. Mm-hmm. And now he's an owner. So he's not only thinking at it from a player standpoint, but he's also thinking at it from an owner standpoint, and he's merging the two together. So he's like, okay, I need to protect the players, make sure the player's healthy and safe, make sure everything is safe. We're going to do everything right. You know, we're still going to be dominating. We're still going to be, playing football at a high level. But safety is still the number one factor. See, he's blending the two. But that's one guy. Mm-hmm. We need, how many teams in the league now? 32? Or something like that. We need 32 more Rocks. And I don't think that's happening.
It may take some time, like as of right now. I tell any person this. To get to a huge conglomerate, it's gonna take 50 years to get there. At least 40. To build like a national fan base that's devoted to you, it's gonna take time. Now with social media, it kind of speeds things up. I do understand that.
I'm about to say it can. But it also, too, like you go back to your branding, what are they selling? Mm-hmm. If it's drama and chaos and despair, that sounds like hotcakes. But if it's hard-hitting, core value stuff, I don't know. You don't see a lot of that. You see it, but you don't see enough of it, I should say.
Right. I think I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'll play devil's advocate here because you talked about earlier with the Damar Hamlin situation, how everybody came together. I think that there are people out there that are thirsting for a outlet where there is actually good news.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there are people that are
that.
I think there are people that are finally looking for, like, where's the good news at? Where's a channel where I can go and see good stuff happening in the world on a day-to-day basis so I can kind of, because at this point, believe in humanity again. I think people are craving that. I think people want that. It's one of those things where who's going to take that step to make that platform?
I think it's out there. I honestly do.
It's just not big enough.
I just don't think it gets the attention that it needs. You know, I was watching the news the other day, and I was talking to DeAndre, my son, my oldest son, and I was like, you ever noticed on the news, you never see anything positive on the news?
Not at all.
And he was like, you know, I noticed that. Why is that? I said, they don't show you the positive stuff. And I said, I don't understand why. And he was like, well, maybe the world is just that bad, Dad. I was like, nah, I don't think so. I don't think that we as a people in a society is that bad. I just can't buy it.
Right.
Because I know there are good people out here. I know there are people that, you know, are champions in their own community that's fighting for positive things. The Damar Hamlin situation showed that. That people were like, no, this is a messed up situation. We feel for this dude. You know, heart outpouring. There was people standing out in front of the hospital with signs, people praying, you know, vigils for this guy. They don't even know this guy.
Yeah.
So it's out here, but I don't understand why it's not being shown in the everyday, not just for a situation that we all had the misfortune enough to see on Monday Night Football.
Right. I think the reason why it's not shown because we've bought into negativity sells, clout chasing sells, derogatory incidents sells, drama sells, reality TV, people getting into fights, people get all kinds of different people getting into fights and conflicts that sells. Me fear-mongering you into thinking the worst about your team or about who you're involved with, that sells. We have bought in to the point that negativity sells so much that we don't even know what good news looks like.
That's true. Because
we get shocked when we see good news.
Yeah, you're right.
Perfect example. There's been you'll see so much bad news about the city. You'll see so much.
About Baltimore.
We're talking about Baltimore. We're talking about Detroit. Any spot where there is obviously an inner city issue, they don't focus on the people in those communities that are actually trying to make the difference. They don't highlight. They don't try to like, hey, here are the people that are trying to make the difference. Yes, the bad stuff is happening here, but here are the people who are trying to make the difference. You want to know they're lifting this up. It's bad. You are not highlighting the people in those communities that are sitting here saying, yo, we sit over here. We got this kid off the street here. We're sitting over here. Hey, we got this program going on here. Hey, this person is now 9 months clean. They don't highlight that. And the reason being is because we've been so programmed to be locked in on negativity that we don't unlock to really look at the positivity that is really going on.
Yeah, that makes sense because, you know, I've been fortunate enough to be a part of several projects in Baltimore. And, you know, I hear different comments from different family members, you know, in the other cities. They're like, oh, man, you work in Baltimore? You got to be careful. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Baltimore's a nice city. I said, there's some really great areas of Baltimore. There's some really great areas of Detroit.
Yeah.
Just like Chicago or any major city for that matter. But any major city still has its element of a certain degree of city life. That's city life. You put a large population of people in a compressed area, you're going to have things that happen.
Right.
That's just city life. The things that have been going on in the city, nothing new. You just get to see it more because we have a cell phone on our hips or in our hands at all times, and you get to see it fast. Like you said, you're almost looking for the negativity to a degree.
Yep.
But there's a lot of positive stuff out there.
Yep, I definitely agree. I think, at the end of the day, I think that we need definitely to stay in the light more. We definitely need to come together more. And I think that the Damar Hamlin situation really enlightened a lot of people to look at Damar Hamlin and go, can we pray for him? Is there anything we can do? I think if we had more incidents like that, I think that it would change the mindset of the next several generations for the better. And with that being said, this is it. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime.
And, just having a positive conversation where we can kind of, talk about these things. And to be honest with you guys, I really wanted this podcast to mature into this. In the past, we've been highly political, we've been fiery, but this is where I wanted to have these mature conversations and get to this point. We still going to keep it honest. We still going to keep it raw, but we are going to keep it respectful with a sense of pride and a sense of a sophistication. And we're going to talk about the issues that we need to talk about and ways that we can make lives better in our current society and culture. So with that being said, this has been another edition of Audio Airstrike. We'll be back again next week with another episode. Take care. Enjoy your Martin Luther King Day. Take into account the legacy that he laid behind. Take into account the impact that he had, but not only take into account what he did. Do a self-check and figure out what you can do in your own community to make a change and to solidify a lot of people's dreams. Once again, this is Everett Hall-McNeill. Take care, you guys.